Well, good Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm Mark. I'm the prepper guy. Welcome to the show. Um, was listening to some news this morning before I went to work. I got to get there early, so it's earlier than normally. Um, about the Maricopa recount and some of the testimony going on, and amazingly, the county election board chose not to show up at this testimony about how the recount's been going, what's going on, some of the security breaches they've had or not had. And I just find it amazing that in America, the people that kind of almost invented free and fair elections cannot figure out how to fucking count votes. They cannot find their ass with both hands. It's amazing. And it's not that we can't figure out how to vote. I think it's just that we can't figure out how to keep track of all them votes because there's a lot of people. Now, I've talked about this before, and I think that the popular vote is bullshit when it comes to presidential elections, and it's put too much money into the system, too much power into the parties, the two-party system. So many fallacies, and that's why we've had this problem. But rather than fix the problem and maybe do away with the 17th Amendment, like I've discussed, we would rather just put some more fucking band-aids on it. And meanwhile, while we're trying to figure out about the whole band-aid situation, we have a team of people going, no, put it over here. No, I think if you put it here, you can close the wound more. And somebody else is in the background going, use super glue. It'll work better. So that's where we are today. But let's assume that this is the right way to do things, and we're going to continue to do popular vote for the president, and that popular vote will tell the elector, in the electoral college how to vote. And so it sounds constitutional because there's still the electoral college in there, which we don't understand, and we don't really like that either. So they're all testifying about all this stuff that should have been done, and now the other side, the fucking Democrats, and I hate saying that because then it just gets their ire up, and they're like, well, not all Democrats. Well, it's not all Republicans either. So, it's the Democratic Party, the DNC, or whatever they go by, are raising a stink about this election. And it's like, I'm sorry, but all the, Maricopa County Board of Elections were Democrats. They're the ones that did not allow the people to watch and the people to certify. And they were the ones that noticed that there was, like, instead of 1% of a ballot being kicked out because the paper was wet or damaged or kind of a coffee stain on it, that number should be like less than 1% most of the time. And yet it was 40, 50, whatever it was. It was, like 75 out of 100 kicking out, and that needed to be manually counted. And instead of, one of their people going, hey, wait a minute, there's an anomaly going on here. We need to figure this shit out. Did all these ballots get printed wrong? Too big, cut wrong? What the fuck's going on? So now that we're trying to recount it and figure it out because we know something went on, it was just, the people in that county go, no, no, no. I mean, the majority of people, common sense, are going, I didn't vote for that guy. This is fucking bullshit. So they're counting it again, and now all the fucking Democrats are like, oh well, this is a waste of money. Well, should have done your job the first time. You were in charge of it. You had the majority of people in the election process and the board of electors or whatever it's called, and you could have done your oversight then. And no, you fucked up, and now we have to redo it. We being, mostly the Republican Party because, they're the ones that are like, well, we think something happened. And, by the looks of it, we want to we want to have an instant replay of that election. We do it in sports. The referee might be on the take or something like that. So I was thinking, when we were a kid, I started to write a post. Maybe I'll finish it. We had a neighbor kid that always wanted to play with me and my brother and my friends and stuff. And I think we were maybe a little older, but, my brother was. But I was the same age as this little prick. And he was just a spoiled little whiny bitch. And so we'd be playing some game, fucking tag or whatever, outdoor games, because we never invited him over to our house because he was just an ass. And then he would feel like, we were cheating. And back then maybe we were, I don't know, in his mind. And then he would tell his mom. And then his mom would go tell our mom, who probably had some guilt complex, And then we would get in trouble. Stop picking on him. He's younger than you. Well, he's not younger than me. But either way, we'd get in trouble. So we would try to avoid him when it was time to play. But, it was the neighborhood. And, his house was right behind ours. And, there weren't walls and shit back then to where, like, the front yard was your street and that was your territory. They had backyards and alleys and no fences, and people just kind of commingled. And so we would try to avoid him, and then he would once again tell his mom, they're not playing with me. They're avoiding me. They're running, They're laughing at me. And so once again we would get in trouble. And then we'd be told, well, don't play with them. It's like, well, it's not that easy. God, you remember you were a kid. So we were young and we got overrode, or is it overridden, by our parents, me and my friends and everybody. We'd get all in trouble for being mean to this kid. And we were kids. Fuck. I can't even remember. I know we had a friend, not a friend, but a kid in the neighborhood when I was in 6th, 7th grade that we used to pick on. And now I feel bad for that. But I actually remember picking on him because it was kind of fun. So the subject today is more on, my other podcast, Truth to Power, but I think I got a little distracted on that one and just called it that because, what the fuck else am I going to call it? How do we, as Americans, figure things out? If we have the other party running to their parents, which is the media and big tech, and accusing us of being racist and cheaters, when all we're trying to do is get to the bottom of something as simple as a fucking election. And since we're going to play by these stupid new election rules of one man, one vote, and blah, 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 and mail-in shit, then we should establish the rules, because this was the first time, in a long time of elections, we went from actually not having popular vote to popular vote, I think around FDR's time, to now that we've said, hey, let's have massive voter mail-in shit because there's a COVID thing. So most reasonable people would sit there and go, well, yeah, this is kind of new. I mean, we've been doing popular vote for many, many, many years, but we've never had this many, mail-in votes. And so there's going to be problems, and we'll work it out, which the other side will always go, well, yeah, sure, we'll play fair. Not a problem. Until it's time to, get called onto the carpet and go, hey, we don't think that this was run right. And then instead of going, well, there might have been some anomalies, let's look into it. They're like, you're accusing us of cheating because our guy won. Oh, well, I think when Bush won, they accused us of cheating. Excuse me, my nose just won't stop leaking again. I hate this time of year. So it seems like, I'm reliving my childhood with this little brat neighbor that just can't, quit whining over every little infraction. He's a kid. Kids play different. he wants to play with us, then play our way. Find someone else to pick on and join the group. We'll all laugh. It's like when somebody's picking on you, and I notice this in a lot of movies. That the person that's kind of the newbie or the underdog. If he's got a personality and he can roll with it and then throw it back in their face, and all of the kind of the bullies' friends, because it's not a rivalry like they want to kill somebody, kind of all his friends laugh at him too. They're like, dude, he nailed you on that one, and then they all become buddies and, die for each other, because that's what life's all about. So here we are in the future from my childhood, and we're talking about the election of the President of the United States. See, it's not just like fucking dog catcher. It's not like playing a game of tag. No one really cares. Not even the neighborhood dynamics care who won tag. I don't even think we went to school and said, I won tag. It's just innocuous, stupid, everybody like, who the fuck are you? So it's not a dog catcher thing. It's the President of the United States. And so it's important, and yet both parties are acting like little children. And I have to, and I have been this way with Trump from the beginning. I wasn't a fan of the way he handled the whole COVID thing, but that's fine, And then, he let them kind of, through peer pressure and bully tactics, change the rules of the game and shut down the economy. But he is the president, and he acknowledged that. It's like, this is not on me. These are the governors doing this, and I'm just the president. I'm the landscaper. I can't tell you what color to paint your bedroom wall. It's none of my business. But, he got boxed into a corner, and then he did the warp speed thing with the vaccine, which was just, maybe, he didn't tell him to make a vaccine that had these, proteins in it that, can kill you next time you get COVID, maybe. I don't know. So I'll cut him some slack on that. But everybody knew during this election that it had switched at, 1 or 2 in the morning, depending on where you lived and what time fuck it was. And at that moment, when he woke up the next day and said, hey, wait a minute, something is not right. And I would have expected him to do it even if it was the other way around, because he was the president and he had the authority, because federal election laws matter. So he could have said, this has to stop. We're putting a hold on it. I'm bringing in the National Guard of every state. We're throwing out these that appear to be corrupt election board people, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, and we're going to have the National Guard observe. None of this bullshit anymore of pushing the observers out and saying, go stand back behind that line because there's this imaginary fucking COVID. But see, he couldn't even do that because he had already bought into this vaccine and COVID, and oh my God, everybody needs to wear a mask. That's the safe thing to do. Not that the National Guard don't have fucking mop gear and suits that they could have wore and observed. But anyway, whatever. So he could have stopped it right then and said, we're not stopping the election. Continue to bring in all the ballots from wherever. We're just going to have people that are in the military, intelligence, and logistics handle this. Because most people trust the military and the National Guard. They don't trust politicians, and they don't trust these election boards, and they don't trust these asshats, that are pushing people away that are supposed to legally be there. So I don't think he would have got much kickback from that. Or blowback, whatever the word is. But he didn't. So now here we are. So Maricopa County is trying to figure this out, because all the people in the county are like, it just doesn't smell right. So instead of just, like Dems are saying now, well, just let it stink. It's all in your imagination. They're like, no, we're going to go open all the lockers and see what's stinking, because it's either something dead in, the basement, or a body, or a corpse, or a ham sandwich or something, but we can't have school on Monday with it smelling that way. So we're going to go find it. Something stinks. And everybody with common sense would go, yeah, that makes sense. No big deal. Well, we're going to have to pay a little overtime. It's like, yeah, no big deal. I mean, you guys spend money like you got it. So what's another couple $1 million or $20 million? I mean, you dropped the ball when it was happening. So we, the people of Maricopa County, are willing to spend the extra money. See, it's nobody else's fucking business in all these other counties. You know, whether we're spending $1 million or $100 million. Go fuck yourself. This is our problem. We will solve it. Any more than it's my neighbor's fucking business to sit there and go, are you sure you can afford that tractor? It's like, hey, go away. Well, I have a tractor. I always let you use it. It's like, yeah, now I have one. So I don't have to come in hat in hand. You know, hey, can I borrow your tractor again, man? So, whatever. So we're trying to figure it out, and it's starting to look like a lot of the votes went the other way. So now they're really freaking out on the other side. Like, oh my God, you're cheating. So now all of a sudden they want all these, you know, they want observers and stuff to see what the fuck's going on. Oh, you do now? Do you now? And then, you know, all this information that Mike Lindell has found, it's not like it's his information. He just observed it. He's got people because he's got money, and so he's paid these companies to do a forensics, you know, basically a forensic audit on the Dominion machines, and that they were connected to the internet. And you know what? They're telling us, well, they weren't. It's not like, you know, we knew they were connected to the internet, so you know, what you expect. No, they said they're not connected to the internet. But then these forensics guys have seen that all of the machines all across the country were connected to the internet, and they were sending packets of information. And they've intercepted those packets and found that they went from our county to fucking China or to these other countries to be tabulated and then back, which would normally be fine if we would have known that. Then they'd say, well, here's all the security protocols involved. Because, like, I send an email. Do I really care if my email ends up going to fucking China and then bounces around to Hawaii and goes on vacation in Australia and then ends up back at my neighbor's email? No, I don't really care, because I know there's safeguards on it. And if there's not, it's a fucking email. But this is our election. So if they wouldn't have lied, and they would have said, yes, they're connected to the internet minimally, and here's a port that you can plug in, and you can monitor it virtually all along so you can see what's going on. No, they lied. And now when we go, well, we see a little anomalies here and there, and shit's going on. We want to check it out. And now everyone's like, well, you can't do that. It's like, yeah, we can, because you lied. You, the people, the makers of Dominion, lied. We're not accusing the Democrats of lying. We're just saying these fuckers that made these machines and sold them to us, the use of them or whatever, lied to us. Can we get an agreement to get to the bottom of that? Well, the other party's like, no, because we might, you know, it might be proven that there was voter fraud. Well, it doesn't prove you, Bob, did it? It just proves that, you know, someone higher up the food chain than you fuckers in the Democratic Party, the puppet masters, wanted this fraud to happen. And they should be wanting to know the truth. Everybody wants to know if they're being used. You know, even if they find out it's, you know, their spouse is taking advantage of them. You have a visceral want or desire to know if you're being lied to. You would think it would be the same with them. But see, I think they know. They have to know. I mean, Biden didn't run a campaign. That would have been like me throwing my hat into the presidential election 1 week before the election, spending, you know, a couple $100 and winning. Or almost, let's just say I almost won. You know, people would go, who? Because Joe Biden, I mean, he has a lot of supporters. He's been in politics 47 years, which should, cancel his ability to run for office anyway. But, he has supporters, but he'd have a rally, no one would show up. He had a drive-in theater and everybody was in their car. We couldn't see the people in the car. Nobody interviewed all these supporters because there was COVID. There were a lot of them there. You just couldn't see them because they were all 6 feet apart. Oh, fucking horse shit. So all of a sudden, Mark Boyle wins. Or comes in second. I mean, it was so close, it was a nail biter. Oh my God, Biden, who had no support, and this guy out of Arizona, he came in second. Trump was just out of the picture. You don't think people would go, what? I don't care who you are. And if I'd have won, well, the Democrats would be like, something happened here. This guy beat Biden? Well, yeah. Well, we want to audit the machines. No, can't do it. Mark's the president. The Mark fan club. Marky Mark. So I'm discouraged because, not because that we're having a recount. I'm discouraged because we have to have a recount. I'm discouraged because this has become an issue. It's like, normally I'm not one of them people that get overreactive about things. Like, people go, you're never jealous. You don't overreact about that. And it's like, well, I think jealousy and this is stupid. I know or I don't know. And if I don't know, I don't care. But if there's enough evidence to start looking into it, I start looking into it. I don't argue with the person. Well, I think you're cheating on me. Yeah, I'm going to show all my cards. I'm going to find out. So it's just human nature to go, I think something's afoot. We're going to look into it. And because it's a national election, a lot of eyes are on it. Everybody's watching Maricopa County. My buddy John Jeffers, he's like, dude, what's going on with this Maricopa recount? Because he's from Illinois. It's like, as it happens here, as the rock is dropped into the pond here, the ripples go out, and then when you get all the way to New York, they're like, yeah, what's that happening in Arizona, Maricopa County? Because they can't even say the fucking words right, like Gila instead of Gila, tortilla instead of tortelli, or chimichanga, not chimichanga, javelina, not javelina. So that's how they're. What's just Maricopa County? So you can't even look it up if you actually cared. I think they do it on purpose because they're dicks. But either way, the ripples, when they get that far away, see, people don't know. But here, we care. We have, always been a red state. We all, Obama, I think, won in most counties in Arizona because it stood to reason. John McCain was a fucking douchebag, and no one liked him in Arizona. And he ran a shit campaign. Everybody was like, yeah, Obama won, hands down, no question. I don't even think Obama won in Arizona in like Maricopa County, but Clinton did because he had charisma and all that, and everybody just accepted it. And they're like, well, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah, I voted for him. He was very charismatic. I liked him. I liked what he was saying. Of course, all these Democrats always sound like conservatives when they're running an election, which is funny. And then they turn around and go completely 180. So you almost have to ask yourself, why did they sound like conservatives? Oh, because they know the center of the country is conservative. So all they got to do is sound enough conservative. And then they fall back on their platform. It's like, well, we don't want people to starve just, and die in the streets. No, neither do the Republicans. We just want to do it differently. And everyone's like, well, that makes sense. It's like, well, we don't mind having fair, gun laws, maybe a little training. They sound real squishy. But the reality is like, we want your guns and fuck you. So, Arizona's been a red state all my life, except a few anomalies. And all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, what the fuck? I mean, if it would have been Obama, then everybody would have went, yeah, well, yeah, of course it was close. And at the end, Obama pulled it off. It's Biden. It's Mark Boyle, who? Prepper guy. He won Arizona? I'd never even heard of him. I mean, I think he was down in his bunker, and every once in a while he put a video out, and people were like, "Yay!" And then he paid all his friends, all 10 of them, to stand around in a drive-in theater and honk their horns and flash their lights. That many people I could afford to pay, and I'm not even running for president. So that's where we're at, and they're finding that with this forensic evidence that a lot of these packets went to China, the votes were flipped, they came back. Makes no sense, with the anomalies of these votes being kicked out and having to be hand counted and looked at, duplicates or whatever they call it, which is a stupid word, but whatever. It's looking bad, and I think they don't want it to find out that Trump got 10% more votes than Biden in Maricopa County, which would then that wouldn't sway the election. That's what they always say. Well, that's not enough votes to change things. It's like, it's one fucking county, dick. Arizona's got a lot of them. If it happened here, it'll happen everywhere. And therefore it happened in all these states that Biden won that he couldn't have won. I mean, Trump won them back, in 2016. States that never vote for a Republican had voted for Trump back in 2016. And what, they were so mad at him in 4 years from fixing the economy and everything that he had ran on, every promise he had made, he kept. Those states had a hard on. They were like, oh my God, I'm so glad I voted for him. This time I'm going to vote for Biden, though. So there's just no logic, there's no common sense, there's no reason behind any of this. But whatever. So that's why Maricopa County has grown a nutsack, because we actually care. Because we're being overrun by these illegals, because we are a border state. And so is it cheating? Is it racism to want to get to the truth? No, I think it's due diligence, and I think it's what our founding fathers told us to do: be ever vigilant. If you suspect something's going on, look into it. Be vigilant. Take the slings and arrows from the enemy and continue on. And if at the end of the count we find out that Biden won, hands down, okay. That's all. But I think it'll start a ripple effect that will reach out to all these other states. And, will it change anything? I don't know. It might make Biden totally a lame duck. Kamala Harris, vice president. What did she bring to the election? She couldn't even get the nomination. I mean, during the primaries, she had 0%. And Biden picks her. So you have a nobody with no support and a nobody with no support win the election against a guy like Trump, who had the entire country rooting for him. And to say, okay, he only got 70 million votes. It's like, fine, he only got 70 million. Biden did not get 80. That's the issue. Let's say that Trump got no more votes. I just don't think Biden got that many. I think if Biden got 10 million, it'd be a fucking anomaly it'd be like, oh my God, hell hath frozen over. So, if you're watching this and you see the gamesmanship going on still, it's like my little neighbor running home to tell his mommy, his mom being smart enough to use my mom's insecurity about maybe bad parenting or whatever. I was a kid, I didn't really pay attention to that shit. She was my mom. She was a great parent. What the fuck are you talking about? But the other one might have just, had a little more money. They had a nicer house and a nicer, their house across right behind us was way nicer because we were on the highway and they were like right there. And, maybe they had more money. I don't know. My mom had issues with, drinking, and my stepfather was an asshat. So maybe mom bought into it. It's like, you guys stop cheating. I don't like her accusing me of things and, raising heathens. Please, just stop. Stop playing with them. I don't know. But this is America. It's not a game of tag. We must be ever vigilant. Now, you might be listening just thinking, well, Mark, why are you even saying this? Because you already think it's over. And it is. Because of things like this. And maybe getting a foothold just in this one little county and starting, a ripple effect that people might hear you screaming because you're hanging on a cliff with a couple fingers in a foothold might come to your aid and pull you up. I don't know. I see it as, this election was our death knell. If we could overturn it, would it matter? I don't know. Maybe God's sitting there going, if you could find one or two patriots that are ever vigilant, I won't destroy this world. I don't know. All I know is statistically speaking and looking at it just with, the eyes of a thinker, there's too much going on. It's like when water is about to boil over on the stove. I've noticed that if you turn the heat down, it still wants to boil over. But if you're right there and you catch it and you blow on it, all the bubbles pop and it doesn't, and you've turned it down so it doesn't just rebuild. You can do it. But there's so much heat coming from, all the little ports on the stove, be it economic or social or, enemies or green climate. There's just so many issues that are destroying America. Now, you might turn your one or two little ports off of that burner, but it's still on high. That's how I see it. And so every one of those little jets that are shooting out gas on high are issues. And this election is just one issue. And we could maybe turn it down, and if we get some other states to do it, maybe a couple more little things. But if it's going to boil over, it's going to boil over. I mean, the heat has already reached that point. So there's another analogy from the sick and twisted mind of Mark the Prepper guy. I'm almost at work. I hope some of this made sense. I hope you can kind of follow the thread of the conversation and go, you know what? Good on Maricopa County. I think I need to push my county to do the same damn thing because we're just not sure. We need to be ever vigilant or we will lose our republic. We've already lost the word republic. They call us a democracy. But we might, maybe, I don't know. I'm not a prophet. We might be able to save this country. Hence the world. Because the world and the people that are all laughing at us, like in France and England and everywhere in Canada, because, fucking stupid Americans, don't realize that if America falls apart and collapses, so will their shithole country too. So they need to get on board with this and start, firing their fucking media. So do we. And fix it. So hopefully that helps. I really am thankful to all of you for listening. My numbers are growing, which is kind of cool. We're on Podbeam, prepperguy.podbeam.com, ContraRadioNetwork.podbeam.com, YouTube, BitChute, Brighteon. So, PrepperGuy.com has all the videos. Things are changing there. And then I'm still working on PrepperGal.life. I need prepper gals that are interested in understanding prepping from a woman's point of view, because maybe their husband has passed, or they know he's a sheepdog and he won't be there when the world ends. He'll be out trying to save everybody else. So if you know them people, send them my way. Tell them to email me, mark@prepperguy.com, or watch one of my videos on YouTube or anywhere, and post a link and say, hey, I'm in. So you guys all enjoy the shit show called American Politics and Media. I love you. Bye-bye.
We made too many compromises already. Too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back.
I'm your huckleberry.
The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
That's just my game.